What is up, difference makers? Welcome back to Real Talk, hosted by Brian Poduska. It's your favorite LO loan officer, Mark, coming to you. Lendon, man, happy belated birthday. We are talking about entrepreneurial mindset. Let's roll that tape. Let's go.
What is up, everybody? Mark, thank you for that introduction. Appreciate that. You are correct. We have a new month, which means we have a new business topic. For those of you who aren't familiar with Real Talk, we have rotating guest hosts, Mark and Kindra, not Strawn anymore. Kindra Kennedy is our co-host for this week. And our business topic for the month is mindset and entrepreneurial versus employee mindset. And all that entails. So we will dive into that topic this week and throughout the month with our other co-hosts and their guests. Real quickly, you are listening to Real Talk with Brian Poduska. We are part of the Difference, which is a platform for local business owners, entrepreneurs, really to share themselves, share their businesses, share their experiences. And then, of course, on this show, we get into the business topic of the month and of the week. So that is what we are here for. We are here to introduce our audience to new business, or not new business, but business owners of all sizes, large, small, medium, you name it, with the local focus and trying to elevate the business community locally. So with that being said, really quickly, let me just introduce my business, Real Property Management. You see it here behind me. We are a full-service real estate brokerage focusing on property management and investments. So if you are an investor, big or small, beginning or seasoned, we can help you out. We have some pretty unique tools to help you look at a real estate property from all different angles, not just your straight cash flow. We've got all kinds of different metrics that we can help you look at, taking into account all the different factors that go into that. So we are Real Property Management focus, where we focus on your real estate investments. But without further ado, like I said, we have two other co-hosts. This isn't just about me. Let's bring in both Mark and Kindra, if you wouldn't mind, Lendon. What's
Kindra,
up, guys?
Sorry, I was too excited. I forgot to introduce you.
That's okay.
Hey, it's that period of building up to the introduction that builds.
I just wanted to hear that intro music because that shit riles me up every time.
Dude, I get pumped up. Like I'm in here like trying to multitask and share out our show, but at the same time I'm kind of jamming. So when the camera cuts over to me, sometimes I'm doing this. So that being said, so anyway, guys, thanks for joining me today.
Always a pleasure.
I love having you guys up for the first of the month. On the rotation, you guys are always up on the first of the month. So we always get the new business topic. But great to have you guys. It's December. I don't believe that. I don't know how the hell that happened. We're both in the real estate industry, or you both and myself are all in the real estate industry. It's been a crazy ass year, hasn't it?
It's been a continuation of last year, and it's been both. Yeah. Every day is so long, yet every week it's like, oh my God, it's Thursday. Where did the last 4 days go? Yes. And we always get to talk at the beginning of the month about how we just made it through the end of the month. And so another month end, a successful one on my end. I've got 2 more deals literally that I need to get in to ensure that I get President's Club for my company. So I'm just going to throw this out there, y'all. If you've got a rescue that needs to close quickly, something's going down, give me a ring because we will make it.
Okay, good to know. And that's where we're at too. We've got probably about just shy of 1 or 2 deals to surpass our office goal. Each of our escrow officers have already surpassed their goals, but for some reason, somebody had the great idea of having the whole office goal higher than all 3 of the escrow officers' goals together. I was like, Did somebody like not talk? So luckily, I think we were like 1 or 2 deals from, help from closing in December to get above that, which will be nice. That'll be real nice.
Well, I have enough that if it all closes that I make it. But if there's anything we know about mortgage and real estate and leads us right into entrepreneurial mindset is when shit just goes haywire, which I mean, it happens at the worst time, right? And so I have been living under like the modus operandi, and if Jessica's listening, she has heard me say this probably like 50 times in the last like 60 days. Control the controllables, because that's all you can do. Like in my world, I control so little that a few things that I control that actually move the needle for everybody else. Like we've got to control that. And so I guess that might be a good segue straight into what the topic of the month is, Brian. So expand on what we're talking about, brother.
Yes, sir. So we have the concept of mindset, right? So the reason that I chose this topic really is, and the reason I kind of led in with the end of the year and the craziness that we've had in the real estate industry, oftentimes your mindset may shift, focus may shift, and this is a good time of year. Historically, this has been a slow time of the season for the real estate industry. Not so much this year or last year, but let's just pretend like we're a little bit slower now. The key is we're heading into 2022, right? And for me, the end of the year, and really it starts before the end of the year, but the end of the year is when I really start to focus my mindset and focus on the goals that I have for next year. So that's why I thought this would be a great time of year to talk about mindset. And the way that I think about mindset, or the way that we can kind of focus the conversation today, really kind of starting at the top from more of an entrepreneurial mindset versus an employee mindset. I've been in both modes, and throughout my career, I've when you start in a career, no matter what it is, you're usually more of the employee mindset. Whether you're still a W-2 employee, as your career progresses, you get out of that. Yes, I'm still an employee, but I need to think of it more as what is the direction I want either the group that I'm leading or the company that I'm leading to go. So whether you own your own company or whether you manage a group or even an individual, you have a team and you have to take on more of an entrepreneurial or management mindset. So that's kind of the high level view of the mindset that I'm talking. And then what I'd like to do is kind of drill into what are some of the steps that you guys take. And I can talk to some of the things that I do to really help drive that mindset and really help, kind of from my perspective, think at a higher level and really a growth oriented level. Because sometimes, especially in this busy year, I found myself getting out of that mindset and focusing more on the day-to-day stuff that need to get done, just because it is so crazy, or it has been so crazy. So now I believe is a good time to kind of take a step back and think through, all right, let's look at it from a high level perspective and through that entrepreneurial and business driving lens.
Yeah.
I want to agree with you on so much of it, but yet I disagree with you on so much of it.
Please do.
I mean,
that's why we're on Real Talk, baby.
So, I mean, I'm young, but this is all I know, right? I think I got licensed in 2014 in November, so however many years that is. December's been my biggest month, 6 out of those 7 years. And so I think it's really, if you put in the work in October and September, October, November, like the business is there. So that's the first thing I want to challenge, especially on the real estate side. I see a lot of agents that are actually taking over market share right now because they're putting in that work. I also, as much as we all have annual goals, other than last year, I've never actually hit my annual goals because I don't like to aim low, and I like to have a goal that really is going to spark that the hair on the back of your neck to stand up and actually make you want to get up in the morning. And I think those annual goals are super scary and daunting. And I think one of the greatest books that I've read recently is the 12-week year. And so the 12-week year, it basically is telling you, but the concept of it is 12 weeks is your year. And so at the end of that 12 weeks, you've got a brand new year. And so at the end of the year, you've got 4 years where everything is that much more urgent and you actually get that stuff done, right? It's the same reason why this year for me has been extra crazy. I've had a trip almost once a month this whole year. And so when you've got something right around the corner, everything is that much more important. Everything is that much more mission critical, and it's got to get done now. And so I think part of the entrepreneurial mindset is a complete shift from what we are taught in school, which is how to be an employee. And so I could talk about this all day because I've been going through this entire mindset shift over these last 4 years. I guess London's really seen the whatever we want to call it. But I think it all starts there, right? It's we're taught how to be employees at school. There are reasons why we are not taught entrepreneurship. We are not taught taxes. We are not taught basic economics and how to build a budget. There are reasons for that, right? And so I think a lot of it starts with us taking ownership of it and saying the resources are out there. What do we want to do with our time, our most valuable resource, which we could talk about for another hour? But am I going to spend it hanging out and buying drinks at the bar? Or am I going to be doing something that's actually going to push the needle for me in my business? So I'll pause there, but I mean, I'll give you pushback on it.
So I do have to agree with Mark. Our December has been, I even think for the last 3 or 4 years, has been better than say some, it doesn't stop, because whatever our agents are doing in October and September and August, it's paying off in December. And even for myself, it's paying off from the fact of just getting in front of those agents and lenders and making sure that they try us and that they see how good it is on the other side here with Fair Texas Title. And that our true goal of being the finest closing experience in Texas, truly that is what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to make it so that when your clients close with us, that they have such a great experience that they are going to remember you, the agent, the lender, and the realtor to refer on. And that's our role, is to help build your business and to help be that value partner. A couple of things you said is that, in title gets a bad rap. They get a bad rap of being the ones that just take everybody out for drinks and happy hours and a good old time and all that. Well, I've had agents recently that, they've done that with some of their title reps, and they will tell me who they do that with. And then they'll turn around and they go, but they don't even know how to help with technology. They don't know how to help me farm. They don't know how to help me grow my business. And they go, I can go drink with my friends or my husband or my girlfriend or whatever. But I would rather, have somebody that's really there to help me, that has marketing materials and has different platforms, technology platforms to help me actually grow. And so that's where we come in. And the whole area of entrepreneurship is perfect for this time of year, because the fact that this is when we do stop and we kind of take a look with our agents and lenders and say, okay, let's plan for the next year. Visualize it, either put it in on a board, a vision board, or your goal. We're talking about our goals for the last month as for next year. We haven't even finished the goals for this year, just because, and they're always growing and changing, and we do set them high. But the vision board is basically trying to put on there, okay, what do you want to achieve? And then trying to make it happen. And it can be far-fetched stuff, and it can whatever you want to have it on there. But also the entrepreneurship, true successful realtors and lenders basically are treating this like they are the CEO of their company. They're CEO of a company. They are in control of their vendor partners. They know who they are. They've vetted them. They can trust them. They know who, if they have a property that needs to be managed, they're going to go to Brian. If they need a good lender, they're going to go to Mark. They know, and they have control of their business, but they're not treating it as though they're an employee of Keller Williams or they're an employee of United Real Estate. They're not an employee of, HomeSmart Stars. They are actually a CEO of their own little brokerage, even though they're not a broker. They're a realtor, but that's how they treat it. And it's a constant. They're in the office and they're constantly working on and in their business, both. It's a balance act, but it's basically it's their own CEO. And just one last thought is that one of the things that I'm changing my own mindset with is, and been reminded continually by my sales manager, because I tend to be a little bit of a control freak, is my actions and what I'm doing going to bring in more money? Is it going to bring in more contracts? Is it going to make more money for my escrow officers, for the rest of my staff? Where is that action going? What is it going to do? What's the end result of that action? Can I hand that off to somebody else in the team? And if I can, then do it, so that I can be, because that's my role as a sales rep, is to be out there meeting agents and meeting people and telling them how wonderful we are, so that they will utilize us and that they will also grow their business. So I'll be quiet now.
No, Kindra, I like that last point that you made. I mean, I liked your other ones too, but and I will argue with both of you guys on a couple points, but I'll get to that in a second. I like the last point that you made about the way that you think about your activity, right? So activity-based operation. And what I like to think of it, I'll take it a step further and call it an ROI-based, activity-based way to operate. And I think that that is a very distinct difference as far as mindset goes between the employee mindset and the entrepreneurial mindset. And I think the more and more you can think that way, it just drives efficiency. Obviously, it's ROI based, so it drives bottom line revenue or top line revenue, but hopefully bottom line profit as well. And the reason being is the way that I like to think. I like to think that way too. And you sparked that specific thought in my head is, and what I'm doing right now is, can this be done by somebody else at a cheaper rate, or somebody who can do it better than me and more efficiently than me and cheaper than it's costing me on either lost business or, if I'm paying myself, depending on how you're set up, can I find somebody else to do it cheaper, better? And that's, it's ironic that you say that. And that because I'm thinking through that right now, as we're talking about the growth mindset and everything else, going back to the successful December, November Q4, right? That I've experienced that same thing in my business, to the point where I'm trying to figure out, okay, how do I offload some of this, what I'll call, it's not bullshit, but it's kind of bullshit type work.
It's busy work. It's busy work.
Busy work that needs to get done, that,
yes,
by me addressing it, or somebody on my team who could be doing something, more cost effective, more revenue driving than what they're doing. How do I reallocate those assets to more optimize the business?
Yeah, because I know that Mark probably sees realtors like I do, that basically they are so busy that they're forgetting, hey, you may be a top producer, you might trying to get up into that next level of production, but at that point in time, it's a lot smarter for them to hire a TC, to have a transaction coordinator, to have an EA, to have somebody that can take care of that stuff, that frees them up to get out there and get more listings, to get more buyers. And if you're paying somebody else over here who that is what their specialty is at, you're going to free yourself up. But trying to get some of them into that mindset, it can be a struggle sometimes.
That's so many different thoughts going on through my head. But whenever I do talk with an agent or really anybody, and it came from a coaching moment that I was in, and it's basically looking back at last year and, guesstimating how many hours a week you work, and therefore figuring out what your hourly rate is. And I think that first practice of me doing that first time, I was astounded by how low my hourly rate was for how much I was working. But as I've built my business, it's been a constant realization that I need to continue to reinvest in my business. And that means not just reinvesting in myself, but investing in systems and really investing in what allows me to create value for my partners, for my clients, for everybody that I work with, right? Mm-hmm. And so for me, that number became 30%. And so it's literally automated now that 30% of gross pay goes into a separate account. And that money, that sole purpose behind that money is investing in my business. And so that is something that, I mean, came from I think one of those pivotal moments where I finally went from like employee right here to like entrepreneur of this is what is like, there's no greater investment other than your ability to create more income. Right. And I think it all started with that exercise of what is your hourly rate. But for those producers that are at that level today, if they were to calculate that and then they go through their day and realize I'm putting words and numbers into a contract at a $150 an hour figure, you go, I can't not hire somebody. I can't not do this implementation because I'm literally just costing myself money.
Yep. And the irony that you talk about that, I just did that with my sales manager a couple weeks ago, right, the week before Thanksgiving. And he, gave me a dollar amount. And he's like, this is, if you look at, your everything, take everything into account. He goes, suppose this dollar amount. He goes, that's what your hourly is. And if there's somebody else in this office that can do that for a lot less than what your hourly rate is, he goes, we need to be doing that. And I was like, that, and you're right, it was light bulb. It was a light bulb. You're like, wow, and just putting it in that format. Okay. Trying to figure out, okay, what is your hourly rate at what you're doing and you're producing and what you want to produce, and it does change. It changes the more, you bring in. So it was a light bulb moment. I liked that.
A couple weeks ago, one of my good friends, fellow loan officer, she posted a video of one of her talks with her agents, and she said, are you honoring your prospecting time? And what drives your business? And if you know what drives your business and you're not doing it, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And that, hit me like a ton of bricks, because as much as I've done this year, I really haven't honored my prospecting. Mm-hmm. And I think that is one of those things that whatever business vertical you're in, if you're too busy in the business to do the stuff that drives the business, and you're just focused on fulfillment throughout your day to day, what are you doing? Right. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason why I can comfortably ask you that and say that live on tape is because of this transition, right? Like, this isn't something that an employee ever thinks about.
It's not. It's what, and honestly, it's something that we kind of go through that kind of transition and have to take a look at it. We truly do as sales reps. We have to really take a look at what are we doing that is going to be revenue producing, but also we kind of get caught up in the busy time during the summer. The summer is kind of when we get really caught up the busy. And then when the fall hits, it may slow down a little, but slow down just a little enough for us to go, okay, need to regroup, need to get back to my getting out there in front of new people, other people, prospecting, and trying to our form of lead gen in a way. But it's because many of us get very caught up in the busy aspect of the job. And it's easy to.
Right. And I think that's what's so dangerous about it, is because everything still needs to get done.
Yeah.
You just got to be able to like internally prioritize it.
Exactly.
And it's not an easy practice.
One of the things that I heard one time. I want to jump in real quick. Is I was in a coaching session with several other people, maybe more of a mastermind class than anything, and one of the people in there were talking about how they were so frustrated because they didn't sign up for this, and you put this in air quotes, and the instructor, the mentor, actually said, well, that's your first mistake, because as a entrepreneur you sign up for it all. And he listed out some things, and I wrote them down. I want to share them with y'all and get your thoughts on this. But he goes, there's actually 6 things that you have to be willing and capable of doing in order to be a successful entrepreneur. One is the acceptance of all responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
You can delegate, but in the bottom line is you're still responsible for it. So if whoever you delegate it to doesn't get it done, it still falls back on you. The second one is to be able to persevere. We all jump into business thinking about how much money we're going to make, what kind of lifestyle we're going to have, that it's going to fulfill my dreams, it's going to take care of my family. We don't think about all the headaches that we have to go through. And that's kind of what this guy was talking about. I didn't sign up for all the headaches, and that's just bullshit, because you do. You may not want to, but if you're a true entrepreneur, you do. That is the critical difference between employee mindset and entrepreneurial mindset. Is employees don't sign up for all the headaches. They sign up for a specific amount of headaches that they manage in an 8-hour day, and they're done. Someone else has to take care of everything. The other thing is you have to be a visionary. You have to see things other people don't see. And that leads into being opportunistic. You have to see opportunities that other people don't see and provide opportunities that other people haven't figured out how to provide.
Mm-hmm.
And that
2020 goes into one more. Hold on one second, Mark. That's being adaptive, right? 2020 has taught us, and this is what's so great, because I learned this back in 2008 when the market crashed, how people thrived in the midst of chaos, and others rolled up in the fetal position and crumbled.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it is the adaptive people that see that opportunity. Mark, and I've seen this in the real estate business for 20 years. October, November, December, everybody starts cruising and putting on the brakes, except for those high-level producers. Because guess what? There's less competition now. Most of the people have already phoned it in. They're getting ready for the next year. And there are people out there that still want to be approached and still want to be helped. And the high-level, high-producing people in every industry understand that when everybody else is on break, that's when they're going to work harder. And then the last one, I think, and this kind of goes to, I struggle sometimes with people that are money motivated, and they're always worried about, ROI is important, because we didn't get into this to work for free. But I think that being impact driven, impact motivated, because everybody that's been an entrepreneur or that's been self-employed has gone through times where income was not that great. And if we are not looking at things like, how am I making an impact? How can I impact the industry? How can I impact my clients? And how can what I'm doing impact my life and my lifestyle and my family's life and lifestyle?
Mm-hmm.
That is what keeps you focused. And that is, to me, the components of a true entrepreneurial mindset that we don't have to have as an employee.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would call that the difference, right? The last one that you said, the impact motivated. What are the things that make the difference?
Because if our motivation comes from revenue, there's months where entrepreneurs, they pay staff and they don't pay themselves. I know some right now that they haven't taken a check, and the owner of the business is not taking a check in 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But they pay the employees and they keep the business going.
Right.
Now, some people would go, well, how do they do that? Well, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're not going to be a very good entrepreneur.
Right.
You've got to have created some cushion somewhere. Because that's another, having that understanding of what entrepreneurship's going to be like. There's going to be months where it's feast or famine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And when if you're just of the employee mindset, you get a paycheck every 2 weeks, and you know what it's going to be, and in most cases you're going to get a 3.5% raise because that's what cost of living is. That may change here in the next 2 years. But, political inflationary comments aside, you get in that mindset of, okay, well, here's what my paycheck's going to be. Here's what my rough career plan is going to look like, and here's what I can expect to make in 5 to 10 years. Okay, fine.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's the riskiest play of all. Like,
Agreed.
how many downsized couples do we know that like literally spent their 15, 20 years putting in their time just to get the carpet ripped out from under them?
Mark, I don't know if you've heard that story before, but I've told it, and this is where entrepreneurship really, where I made the decision that's what I was going to do, win, lose, or draw. When I was 18 years old, my mother had worked for, she was a corporate nurse, and she had worked for this company. She was at 19 and a half years. She 6 months to full retirement, and they laid her off to avoid paying full retirement, and the fact that they could hire some new nurse for 50% of what my mother had built up to over those 19 years. And I'm like, oh my God, she just devoted her life to that company with this carrot dangling at the end. And they just basically said, F you, see you later.
Yep.
I could never go back. I mean, I am so blessed to have found this industry as young as I found it, and to really embrace what I've already had within me, which was the entrepreneurial spirit. But my God, I mean, I can't imagine. And I mean, I can't imagine because my parents are that age right now, right? And I can see that. I mean, they shouldn't be working anymore, and it's like I'm literally, and I'm so excited about it, and I'm going to be so proud once I actually make it happen. But my dad's a Spanish teacher in high school, and he's going to be our brand new junior loan officer here in 2022.
Love it.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
And I mean, part of that is just it's been a dream of mine to do, but part of it is also I think it takes a level of empathy and, like you were saying, London, impact driven, that I haven't been able to make the impact that I've wanted to on the Spanish speaking community here. And it's because as much as I can, especially if you get a couple of drinks in me, speak some pretty good Spanish, I can't facilitate a mortgage transaction in my third language because that's what it is.
Well, just to let you know, Mark, I have a really awesome escrow officer who's actually our assistant, but she's a licensed escrow officer. She's fully bilingual and read, speak, you name it. So she's your escrow officer. She will handle. Yeah, and she's just chomping at the bit for us to get involved with more of the Hispanic community because of her, her passion for it, her passion for real estate, and to be able to help her community.
Yeah.
Be home buyers or just to invest. So
yeah, I think that's a very that's awesome, Mark. First of all, that
is cool.
You're bringing your dad on to do that because that is a very underserviced opportunity there. So that's awesome. Hey guys, real quick, what I'd like to do is take a break and give our sponsors a little bit of love. And then we'll dive back into this because Lennon, you brought up some really good points there on those six points. So I do want to dive into that a little bit. But in the meantime, let's all right, we're going to talk about Wines with an Appeal first. So Mr. Tom Rowe's business. So Wines with an Appeal is a company dedicated to assisting people fundraise for their favorite nonprofit organization. They provide a fun and educational program to entertain your donors and increase their wine knowledge that could potentially cost the fundraiser nothing. So when he says nothing, he kind of means it because I know Tom and I know how he operates. Basically, the way that business operates is he sells wine to those folks who you invite, and then once his cost of actually serving the wine during the wine tasting is covered, everything else goes straight to the charity of your choice or the cause of your choice. And I know this, he's never had one that hasn't met his costs. So if you want a fun time, if you want to learn more about wine, if you want to entertain some guests, and if you want to have the opportunity to purchase wines that you won't find in store, check out Wines with an Appeal. Send an email to Tom at Wines with Appeal. I always say that. It's Tom at wineswithappeal.com. Or call them at 214-621-5216 for more information or to schedule your event. And then our second sponsor is Mr. Greg Holberg, the owner of Liberator Health Insurance. He's also a co-host on the show. So certainly check him out. I believe he's on the third week of the month, or maybe it's second. I can't recall. But now is the time, right, guys? We are in the middle of enrollment for health plans. So Greg provides a deal of the week. This week's deal is he just signed up a 54-year-old accountant and his 23-year-old daughter for great coverage for $570 a month. What I can tell you is that if you were to do that through the government marketplace, you would probably be paying at least double that for probably half the coverage. So just to put it into perspective, if you are looking at signing up for a new health insurance program or thinking about it, reach out to Mr. Holberg at 214-886-4688 or visit them at www.liberatorhealthinsurance.com. The deadline, I believe, is the 14th or 15th of December. So that's for the government marketplace stuff. So as you're analyzing all this, reach out to Greg. He'll give you an education. He'll listen to your needs, and he'll come up with a program that works for you. All right. So thank you, Mr. Holberg and Mr. Rowe. You guys have been our great sponsors all year long. We appreciate you. But in the meantime, so they're entrepreneurs too, right? So as we're talking about the entrepreneurial mindset and mindset in general, those guys, and I know they've both been in that employee mindset because they have a similar background to me in that they've been in corporate and been very successful in the corporate world, and then translated that and really kind of progressed, I'll call it, to the entrepreneurial mindset and an entrepreneurial business, each with different whys, but as we were talking about, the impact motivated or the difference is one of the 6 topics that you just brought up, Lennon. I love that. I love the old, I didn't sign up for that shit. That comment, I can't tell you how many times I've thought that, because believe me, I've thought that.
I can't tell you how many times I wanted that to be true.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But unfortunately, no one else signed up for it either. So I have to take care of it.
The funny part about it is you think it and you're like, shit, I didn't sign up for this. But guess what? When you're like, yeah, I did. And guess what? I have to deal with it. If I'm going to move forward, or if I'm going to do this transaction, or if I'm going to, not have a legal situation on my hands, from my perspective, if I've got a tenant to owner issue, okay, I got to get through it. And every business has its unique situations. I wasn't planning on having to mop up the floor in my office today, or, stupid stuff like that. I didn't sign up for that. Because, you have these grandiose plans of, in 10, 20, 30 years, this business is going to run itself, and I'm going to be sitting on a beach sipping martinis or whatever. Whether you get there or not, hopefully you do. That's great. But there's a lot of the aha, oh shit moments along the way that you're like, I didn't sign up for this.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
going back to books and going back to what you're just talking about, I mean, extreme ownership is life-changing. Like, once you actually take ownership of everything that is within your control and everything that isn't, and realize, like, this is the world. This is where we are. Until you get there, I don't know that you can have the true success that you would have otherwise, I guess.
Mark, I think that's such a good point. And one of the things that I think in taking that true ownership and realizing that you have all those 6 components that we talked about, I think that's when you really start to realize what your true value is. And I think so many of us there's so many people out there that overvalue themselves, and then there's so many that undervalue themselves. And we try to sell ourselves short sometimes, and we try to undercut prices and all this different thing. And then all of a sudden you realize all the responsibility that you carry as this entrepreneur, and you know for a fact at that very moment what your true value is. And there's a certain confidence that comes with that. And it's liberating. It's really
unlike any other feeling.
Yeah, it's scary. It'll
like
scare the hell out of you when you realize that I got all this responsibility, but then you start to understand your worth and what you're capable of and what your value is and what you can offer, what you truly have to offer to everybody around you. And that's the uniqueness of being an entrepreneur. You know, I've told everybody, you know, Mark, you're a loan officer. Kindra, you're entitled. Brian, you do property management. Whatever our jobs would be, anybody can mimic that job. The one thing they can't mimic, though, is you. They will never be able to duplicate or replicate the person that you are. Mm-hmm. And I think that the better we become at taking care of those 6 components, that's where our core values come in. That's where our brand, our identity comes in, and we start to see that value and why we are special and why we're worth someone doing, you know, giving us a chance to do business with.
Mm-hmm. Lennon, were you a football coach or something?
Yeah, back at many years ago, back with Newt Rockney.
No, I say that jokingly, but I think it's awesome. And Mark, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think, especially with the topic that we've got today, right, the mindset, because you're absolutely right, Lennon. It's those 6 components that you mentioned. That
break those down again for me.
So you got responsibility, perseverance. Mm-hmm. You have to be a visionary. You have to be adaptive. You have to be opportunistic, and you've got to be impact driven or impact motivated.
So as an entrepreneur, you know, you oftentimes have to do all that at the same time, and oftentimes have to shift and focus on one of those or multiple ones at the same time. And that's where I think, you know,
where we all balance, right?
As a business owner, you may not think of yourself as that valuable that you do all those things at the same time. So, Landon, when you said all those and what you just said about valuing yourself and, you know, not underselling yourself, I think that's a great mindset to take, especially as we go into the new year. Because I know I'm guilty of it where, you know, you get so caught up in the minutia, or that, you know, you're not realizing you're doing all these things, or maybe you're not focusing on one as much as you should be. But I think that's a great way to really set your mindset for the next year.
I mean, I totally agree with you, but I think it takes a level of doing to get that realization, or to actually put in the work to provide the value to realize you are valuable, right? Sure. Mm-hmm. Because you can fake it till you make it, but if you're just faking it, like, you're not going to make it, right?
No, you're not. And like, for instance, today I was at an event that one of the big brokerages that's nationwide, that I actually think they're worldwide. They have a training that they offer for agents, and it's called Bold. So by telling you that, you know where I was. But Bold,
you just let the secret out of the bag.
Yeah. So Bold, basically, you'd think, okay, it's just for new agents, or it's just for agents that have transferred into their broker. No, honestly, some of the top producers that have been in the business for 10, 15, 20 years, they have taken it 3, 4, 5 times, just because they need the reminder of how to get those funky monkeys out of their brain that are talking to them and telling them that they're not worthy and that they don't know what they're doing, or questioning, because you will have many clients that will tell you you don't know what you're doing when you do. You know, real estate agents are a real estate agent for a reason. And if they're successful, they've passed a test. They've also taken continuing education. They have to be up to date with the contract, and it is a legal binding contract. They have to know it. So these are people that sometimes get so undervalued. And that's one of the things that I love to be able to do, is to be able to help them prove their value and help them show them their value. But that's also what Bold does. It just reminds them of what they need to be doing to continue on to what they're doing, just reiterating and training them, and just to prove their worth, so that they're able, because I was talking to one today who was talking to our attorney. We have 3 or 4 attorneys. One of them is client facing, who will answer all your questions at no cost, our realtors and lenders, when you have legal questions dealing with a real estate transaction. And that was her biggest complaint, was this guy had whittled down her confidence because he kept complaining about telling her she was wrong. She's like, I'm not wrong. I know what I'm talking about. And so she went to our attorney. He's like, you're right. You're good. It's all good. But it was just that matter of it's like we just sometimes have to go through something like Bold or the books that we've discussed to basically remind ourselves of our worth, why we're doing what we're doing, that we have a passion for doing what we're doing, and that we're trying to provide a true service and something to be productive to the community that we work in. I mean, I love real estate, and I'm very lucky I got into it late in life, but it's a passion of mine, and I love the contract. I love arguing with our attorney the contract, but I love to be able to provide my agents.
There's so much there. There's so much there. I mean, my God, I think part of what really, especially when you talk about the realtor that understands their value and what home ownership provides and what they actually facilitate and the problems they solve that their clients never even hear about. Mm-hmm. The ones that actually understand that, they're the ones that actually want to take that next step and learn how to solve that next problem, right? The amount of times I talk with top performers that are like me every day, just solving the next problem that comes up, versus the entrepreneur that doesn't have the right mindset, that is just talking about the doom and gloom of their problems. I think at this point in my career, it's next problem. Let's go.
Yeah. And Entitled, that's all we see. We get the stuff that they don't tell anybody. That the seller, oh really? I have to claim that I have 4 children and my husband died and it's been 5-6 years, but really? And the will says that the proceeds go to me and the kids. Yeah, you have 4 kids and you neglected to tell us of 2 of them. So yeah, it's like the title sees all the little things behind the scenes that people neglect to tell you. And, they think we're not going to find out about this lien, that lien, or a bankruptcy or whatever. And it's just, it's our job is to make sure that home is free and clear back to when Texas was its own country, to basically transfer from one owner to the next. And it is fun, and it's interesting to listen to, and it's interesting the problems. And I love the problems that they bring to me, that I get to call one of my escrow officers and say, hey, this is a fun one. And that's just the nature of our business. So I'm like you. I like the problems. I like to learn, because it's always a new day. It's always a new day. There's always something different.
Let me ask you guys a question real quick.
Yeah.
Each one of you are in the real estate industry, but you also have different careers within that industry. But what is the one thing that you have in common other than real estate? What do you get paid to do?
Solve problems.
That's it.
Exactly.
And if we would change our mindset and realize that every problem that comes my way, do what, Mark?
Professionally solve problems. Not just like solve problems, but like professionally
solve problems at a high level. And
you can eliminate problems certain ways, but you might, might go to jail.
Yeah, take them to the train station. Anybody watch Yellowstone?
You can take the kid out of Chicago, but you can't take Chicago out of the kid.
Right.
I know some good waste management companies.
If you look at the really,
you take the train station.
Yeah, if you look at the really successful businesses, the professionals out there that have longevity, they're the greatest at solving problems. Mm-hmm. They really are. They embraced that long ago. And they're like, okay, I don't know which one of y'all said it. Here's another one. Bring it on, because that's where my value lies. Mm-hmm. If they didn't have problems, we wouldn't have a job.
Right. Exactly.
We don't want to create more problems.
No, and we also, I mean, first we've got to expect that we do create problems, right? Especially in the beginning, and both have like a level of grace for yourself to like forgive yourself and then never make that mistake twice, right? And actually learn from those mistakes. But I just wrote down adversity breeds character, right? Like, tell me one powerful like entrepreneur that doesn't have a story of adversity. And if you can find one, then they're probably not a true entrepreneur, right? I think all of my favorite people in life have all had to overcome adversity, and I think it's not until we get that rock bottom or whatever that personal thing is for you, it's not until you get there that you can really start to climb. And
let me ask this. I'm gonna throw out a hot sports opinion. I'm gonna get Brian fired up here. Brian, you were a Chicago Bulls fan, right?
Still am, yes.
Okay. All right.
They're getting good.
When anybody asks me about Michael Jordan versus LeBron James, and I will remember one game that Michael Jordan played in that it probably was they were my team back then. I really think that not him himself, but he did a lot for the game of basketball and bringing the popularity that it did, because no one had really ever performed at a level like he did for that period of time. But the game where he had the 104 fever, and it was just unbelievable how he performed, even though he was facing that kind of adversity. And then people ask me, okay, LeBron James or Michael Jordan. I said, LeBron James gets nicked on the elbow and he falls down crying. He doesn't perform in adversity. He just doesn't. Is he a good basketball player? Heck yeah. I wouldn't want to go up against him. But it's those people. Our heroes come from the ones that deal with problems and still come out and doing an amazing job.
Yeah, so you're getting me fired up in a good way, because I have to agree with you that, I'm biased, grew up in Chicago, played basketball during the time when the Jordan era Bulls were successful, right? So I'm only slightly biased, but the killer instinct that Jordan had as a basketball player, athlete, person, you name it. Now that's an extreme mindset, right? And that really rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, but it certainly was successful for elevating not only his game, but the game of that entire team. Created, along with Phil Jackson, but Phil Jackson, the mastermind of that offense and that defense, and really the mindset. I would call him more of the mindset master of that team. And then his successive teams all had different mindsets that he had to juggle. But that's a great sports analogy. Not only because it's near and dear to my heart, but because they were so successful for so long with so many different personalities. The couple of constants were always Jordan and Pippen and Phil Jackson. And you can mix in a few other characters that they all had to deal with and motivate differently, but they did it. And you go back to your six things: accepting responsibility, perseverance, all that stuff. That team and that I'll call it a dynasty, because it was. They really exemplified a lot of that.
Well, and Jordan, I've watched the series on him, and I've listened to people that's played with him and against him, and how demanding he was as a teammate, what his expectations were, and how he would write you off, not if you didn't perform, just if you didn't try. But Jordan could have never demanded that. No one would have played with him. As much as they may have hated his attitude at that particular moment, they wouldn't have continued to play with him if he wasn't out there outperforming them, out hustling them, and out working them, and they were winning. I mean, that's leadership right there. Is I'm going to demand more out of you than you think you have, but I'm going to outperform that myself.
Yep. And you talk about going back to it: visionary, opportunistic, adaptive, perseverance. The end goal being to make the impact in the league and with the team, and then acceptance of all responsibility. I think he pretty much exemplified all that. Because he, especially at the end of the game, he took the team on his shoulders. Kobe was another one like that, and going along the basketball lines.
Don't you leave out my Tom Brady, Brian.
I said basketball, dude.
Do not leave out my Tom Brady, because this is the exact conversation and the epitome of excellence.
I mean, if we're going to talk GOATs and greatest of all times, then you can't leave Brady out of the conversation. But I was going along the basketball lines. Yes, I agree with you. Tom Brady fits in that same category as much as,
Okay, but I'm going to throw in my – I'm not trying to get on sports here, but I'm going to throw my opinion on that. Being a football coach, Tom Brady is an excellent leader, excellent performer, prepares well. He is the greatest quarterback, I think, of all time. But I think there is just such a big distinction between what you have to do as a football player on an 11-man team versus a basketball player on a 5-man team, where one guy can take over the game and dominate it. Because what Brady can't do is throw the ball to himself. He can't do that.
He can't play defense.
I think that should be credit to him, because you've got to bring together 53 men as opposed to 12.
Then then bring Bill Belichick into the equation.
You've got that. I mean, you've got egos, right? And I mean, part of leading a team and leading a company is being able to build a culture. But at the end of the day, like, you will always have those, in a way, like psychopaths that come in.
So what if Brady hadn't have been with Belichick? Would he have been as great? How much because I think that there's no denying that Phil Jackson had an impact.
Jordan,
I'm saying
you could make that same argument.
But where you show me any sport where one guy can dominate on offense and defense.
You show me one guy that can have the grit to go from being the 5th quarterback on the Michigan Wolverines to being the last pick of the draft to what he has actually achieved. And actually,
at least he was playing in high school. Jordan got cut.
Yeah, exactly. And again, adversity breeds character, right?
Right.
Like, it's not until Jordan had that happen. It's probably not until Brady had to overcome everything he had to overcome to be put into that position.
I think there's a lot of players out there that are just like Brady. They just aren't going to be in the spotlight. For instance, I know a player that plays for, I don't want to get this wrong. I think he plays for the Giants now. His dad played for the Saints, and the dad played for the Vikings. And he played high school football with my kids. He played actually grade school to middle school. And some of our coaches that are high school being what they were, his dad got smart, transferred him to private school. And dad was more the one that was leading him and his mentor, because unfortunately, sometimes high school coaches aren't the best at getting, and I'm going to totally get myself in trouble here. They're not out there to make sure that the kids that are really, really good have that opportunity to go on, because there's such a small little number of that can do it. Now there are coaches that are awesome and that do help and do.
You're right, Kindra.
To help those kids, but I've seen some that don't. And then there are some players out there that you watch now and you're like, dang, never would have thought in high school, middle school, that they would be playing in NFL right now.
Well, here's a story for you. In my last year of coaching, we had a guy that transferred into to Dallas Christian. He had been in public school in the Mesquite ISD, and he was 5th team. He didn't even start. Yeah. He came over to Dallas Christian, and he hadn't been coached very well, but he was incredibly fast. He was a track star. We win state that year. He gets a small school scholarship because no one knew who he was, but he goes to the Texas Relays, and he beats Marquise Goodwin and wins the Texas Relays. Well, TCU offers him a scholarship. He ends up getting the MVP of the Poinsettia Bowl and ends up playing for the Washington Redskins and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now that's coming from a 5A school in the Dallas area, and the coaches couldn't see talent in him.
Well, and that's exactly what happened to this kid. The coaches didn't see talent. The parents put him over into, I think he went into Prestonwood Christian, He basically started out at, I think it was Tulsa, University of Tulsa, back, and then went to SMU, and then ended up at Georgia his last 3 years. Wow. And I think you even know who I'm talking about, Brian. And he's a great kid. I mean, the parent, and it's just a matter of they had the right leader, and he was lucky enough that it was his dad, and also the other coaches at the other schools that saw it and knew what to do with the child and knew what to do. And it's kind of, so I think, Mark, there's a lot of people in the NFL and also in college football or in other sports that are kind of like a Tom Brady, that it just took them a little bit more longer to get to where they needed to be, but the wrong person was leading them at the time until they found the right person to lead them and to help them achieve their goals.
It's not just football. There's a lot of title reps that are feeling the same way. There's a lot of loan officers that are feeling the same way. Like there's a lot of professionals that, I mean, talk about great resignation. Like you realize leadership and your mentors. And another thing that I've been thinking about recently is, I mean, it takes a certain level of character to want to go coach kids and teach kids and actually feed into that next generation. And I think to kind of come full circle, I think a lot of this over the long term, if we were to really just focus on the kids and focus on the education and focus on expanding the understanding of the opportunities that are out there, I think the more actual difference we can make.
I agree. That was good. I'm impressed with that one, Mark. You did good.
That was a great way to wrap it all together.
Great. Like, hey, you did good.
I'm like, I got problems I got to solve. So
well, and as I'm looking at the time, we are up against it. So that was a good wrap. And I mean, we can go on in the hot sports opinions all day long, but Jordan is still the greatest athlete. That being said,
go Cowboys, go Pokes.
Oh, God.
All right, now, hey guys, we will wrap it up. Thank you guys again for
bad leadership
co-host today. A great topic, great input. I mean, we literally could go on about this all day. So I appreciate the input you guys had. Landon, thank you for all that you do with the difference and on the show today. Appreciate that. And we will continue to bounce. Say again.
Happy belated, Landon.
Yes. Happy belated.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Happy belated to Landon and his 25th birthday again. And Kindra, congratulations. This is the first show you're doing as a married woman.
Thank you.
So congratulations on your nuptials and your new last name, Miss Kennedy. But again, thanks guys for co-hosting. We'll wrap on that. We will continue this topic of mindset and all that means as we go on throughout the month with our other co-hosts. But until then, next Thursday, 2 p.m., check us out again. See y'all later.
Bye.